Greg, because you really set us up so well for this next conversation, as we are talking about how Salesforce Data AI can transform the legal front door. So it was a fantastic intro into our session. Thanks everyone for coming. I'm Gradnik. I lead our strategic advisory solutions team here at HIKE2. Prior to joining, I was leading transformations within financial services, both within risk and compliance, as well as finance and technology. So I think I'm in a really good spot here. I would love for my panelists to introduce themselves, and then I'm going to show you a really fun video before we kick off.
Hi, I'm Jessica Klinger. Before my tech career, I was in film and television for 26 years, and I did work on sort of business processes and legal processes there. And then I started my tech career at Uber, and I worked in business affairs there and developed a SOX compliant process for our terms and conditions. And then after that, I went to TikTok. You've heard about Project Texas. I worked on that as well, and trust and safety tooling. And now I'm back at Uber as a new boomerang, working on the legal matter management tool based in the Salesforce experience.
Cool. Hi everyone, my name is Gary Sopko. I am the Director of Legal Solutions and Technology at Salesforce. I've been at Salesforce for about 12 years now. Most of my background at the company was in IT, so about half my time has been in legal operations now. My team is responsible for legal technology, innovation, solutions, data intelligence for teams in legal that work with legal. And I'm based here in San Francisco, so if anybody else is here, always happy to meet and talk and collaborate more.
Fantastic. So let's see if it works. All right, perfect. So what I'm going to show you is a demo that's been built by HIKE2 around the legal ops space, and we're going to run through a few use cases. The first use case that we're going to view is as a business user. So getting yourselves out of email, out of phone calls. This would be, as a business user, actually being able to submit a legal request for review, for intake and routing to your legal department. So you'll see there's some drop-down boxes asking for information, and then after the user submits it, they're going to go ahead and they can upload files, and then they'll get a notification that it's been submitted. So they don't have to call you to ask you, do you have my case? What are you doing on it? So now we're going to put on our legal operations hat, and we're going to see what happens whenever the intake team actually receives this use case. So give it a second. There we go. And you're going to be able to see that that case that we just submitted is going to be in the intake form. And they're going to go ahead and pick it up and start to review the information. Also, these blue dots that you see on the right-hand side of the screen is going to be the summary of the case, and that's generated based on what the user actually input into the form. And as intake now, I can go ahead and take a look, and I can route it to the trademark counsel. So you'll see that that's been routed, and the original submitter is also notified of where it is in the process. So again, they're not emailing and calling you. So now I pick it up as trademark counsel, and I can start to interact with the knowledge articles. So this is going to help me decide what do I want to do next, of course. And as I interact, I can also use, here we go, the record summary to review it, and I can start to interact with the agent. So I've already determined that I need a cease and desist letter, because again, it was trademark infringement. And so now the agent is going to draft that for me. I can either go ahead and copy it into an email, or I can send it directly from the org. So now I'm going to add the case comment of what I did. And I'm going to go ahead and let the requester know what the recommendation was. So now again, the requester is getting the information along the way. So again, they're not emailing you, they're not calling you, what's happening with my case. And so that's all going to be logged within there. And you'll see the update there as well. So now we're going to go ahead and look at another case where I might need to use outside counsel. And so for this one, again, you're going to see that record summary generated from the details that were submitted from the business user. So I can review the summary, I can review the case information, and then I can interact again with the agent. And so I'm asking the agent again to summarize the case, give me a little bit more detail than what I have there. It's thinking, it's going to go ahead and summarize that for me, and it's giving me a recommendation saying that I should go ahead and engage outside counsel. So from there, it's going to ask me, do you want to do that? I'm going to say, yes, please, do some recommendations for me. And here are the firms that it's recommending that I use based on the algorithms that are, of course, built within the tool. It's asking me if I want to, there we go, do I want to do an RFP? I say yes. And that's going to go ahead and put the RFP within the Pinnacle Law account because that was the one that I chose. So now I go over and look at Pinnacle Law, and it's going to show me that that RFP is there. And so I can review that. I can now edit this RFP, or I can send it directly from the tool. So here it comes. You can draft an RFP email, send to Pinnacle Law. So now I have an email that I can attach with my RFP, and we can go ahead and send that. So last use case is around contracting. So if I'm a sales user, I'm now interacting with a client, and I need legal to review that contract. And so I'm going to go ahead as a salesperson, I'm going to submit this for approval to legal, ask them to review my contract. And so now the opportunity has been submitted for review. So now I can go ahead and, again, in my queue, just like the queue we saw before, we're going to see the contract review needed. Go ahead and open that up. It's, again, going to give me a summary, and I can interact with the knowledge articles, and I can look at what the standard terms are. So now I'm able to compare the contract that was submitted to me to the standard terms. Looked at that, I'm saying this is approved, and the nice thing is this is going to go ahead and send it back over. Okay. Contract approved, so go ahead and send to client. So now, again, being able to track where you are in the workflow, so the business users are getting constant updates, not having to call you, email, and say where are my cases or where are the things that I need to be reviewed. All right. So with that, we're going to talk to Jessica and Gary a little bit more about some challenges and opportunities that they've seen as they've been transforming legal operations as well. So I'm wondering if we could start with some of the foundation for legal operations and transformation, the foundations for legal operations transformation and some of the challenges that you've both experienced within your roles. And obviously, as leaders within this space, we want to hear from you and learn from your lessons. So Gary, wondering if you might be able to kick us off?
Yeah. So, I think I mentioned that I came from a non-legal background, and so coming into legal, I really had no idea about the space, much less that, the department had 16 different practices, that it was actually very complex, that each team has a ton of responsibilities. And so, in my previous role, I sent a message to legal, to somebody who I realized was in legal operations now, and, was asking them about, am I allowed to do this? And so I realized coming into this role, and thankfully Leo saw it and really invested in this as well, is that there was no front door to legal. There was no consistent process to reach out to people. People didn't understand the breakdown of how legal worked. And so, it ended up being this black box that was very opaque to a lot of people that weren't directly working with the organization.
Yeah, for me, is designing around different use cases, understanding that each attorney wears many hats, and there's not just one sort of out-the-box thing, we're just working with matters and that's it. It's thinking about process end to end. For example, at Uber, we have product attorneys. They're looking at specific areas of the business, like delivery and whatever have you, and they're going to be looking at a view of the matter from a holistic perspective. and looking at PRDs and ERDs. So we build in various processes across the thing to match the sort of the use case for that attorney. And yes, we do matter management, but we're also building out PRD, ERD review, and sort of it's building out sort of this one source of truth for legal, and eventually, hopefully, to be able to glean back that data to us to see how many PRDs, ERDs we're reviewing, what matters there are across the globe that are more of a bigger impact versus another, and sort of like building out that sort of source to glean those legal insights as well. Challenges I've faced are basically, it's important for change management to have your leaders support you, and also from the ground up, because it's hard to get people off G sheets and things like that, but it's worth the opportunity to show the KRs that are involved with that and the impact that it's making.
Sort of fantastic points. So one of the pillars as well about legal transformation, and really transformation of any kind, is to focus on outcomes. And I love the comments around standardization, of course, and building for many use cases and knowing that the users wear many hats. I was wondering if you both could share some of the outcomes that you've focused on as you've navigated legal operations transformations. And of course, we talked a bit about standardization. But Gary, could you talk a little bit more about data governance as well?
Yeah, so data governance is huge going into AI implementations. I think Mark said earlier something along the lines of, if you don't get your data right, you don't get your AI right. And we've seen that. It ends up, if you have incomplete data, the users who, especially attorneys, who really need accurate information, they just don't trust it, right? And then they don't use it. And so, yeah, data governance has been really huge for us going into these. It requires, like, the ROI for a lot of these AI implementations requires it. And what we're also seeing is we're having an issue with junk in, junk out, or what we're seeing is, we're putting junk data in, and then, as a result, then things aren't getting routed correctly, people aren't getting the work in time, and so it is causing operational inefficiencies. And so, yeah, setting up a full framework around it, and incrementally, there have been some questions about, do we do this large data cleanup and then start to work on AI with it, or do we make incremental updates as part of that? And so we've been sort of, at least in some of my projects, we've been working on more incremental updates to be able to get towards AI implementations. And a lot of that also requires change in behavior, because not everybody wants to go in and do data input, manage their data, keep it clean. And so being able to automate some of the processes around that as well have really helped with the data governance.
That's a great point. Jessica, can you help us understand persona-driven outcomes?
Sorry?
Persona-driven outcomes. I think when we talked earlier, you were talking about, again, that attorneys wear multiple hats. How do you prioritize, or how do you focus on what types of personas?
I think KR-driven impact is important. For example, if you are designing for the paralegal and you want to have the paralegal do less work on sort of the intake and the fact investigation and more along the lines of attorney projects, you want to be able to design a sort of that, both the intake upstream to make it be consistent and have less errors. So you want to use AI to do that, in addition to the fact that you want to be able to capture data in a structured way. You want to be able to surface the data in a meaningful way to the rather than just having data come in or data come out. You want to make sure that it's surfacing where it needs to be and how it will be useful for that user. Then you can sort of cut down on sort of the average handling time of a paralegal, and they can focus on other more meaningful tasks going forward. And the same goes for people that are on G sheets and tracking. It's really hard to report accurate data to leadership without, having that sort of proper data in and proper commonalities within the structure with regard to sort of like case resolution amounts and things like that. You want to be able to provide leadership that accurate data, and if you have it all over the place, it's really impossible to gather. So.
I love the view as well as making sure that the bottoms up and the top down are both addressed within your transformation, and to really enable adoption as well. Gary, I'm going to steal your quote that you had mentioned to me before because I think it flows really well by what Jessica just said, which is make work more enjoyable. You're so brilliant when you said that. Would you like to add anything onto that?
Yeah, it was feedback that we got out of a recent AI implementation project with our trademark team, where as new matters come in, the system just automatically fills in all of the fields, essentially does matter classification or case classification for them, but using the unstructured data instead of machine learning models. And it wasn't a huge time save, but the attorneys were so happy about it. They were like, I don't have to go through and fill in each one of these fields anymore. It's already done. I can just get right into the matter. And so that was, for them, very personally satisfying. They said, well, I can up-level my work now, take on higher value work. And even though in this instance, it was a fairly small use case or a fairly small amount of time that was saved, we are reapplying that solution now to much larger use cases where that take, say, half an hour to an hour to complete that data entry. And so some of those foundations really ended up, our attorneys really ended up loving them.
And I think that's what we all hope for, right? I mean, think of how much time you spend, of course, at work and with these tools and with this data, being able to say that it's more enjoyable, or at least, at the very least, that I have a better outcome, but hopefully that I'm also enjoying what I'm doing. So I think that's great. So I showed a little bit of a workflow earlier. Obviously, that's in no way all the use cases that could be derived from a transformation. But I'm wondering if you both could share any future state opportunities that you're excited about. Things like, of course, agentic routing, data, anything you look at around data, and then AI-generated case summaries or analytics and those types of things. Jessica, would you like to kick us off?
Sure.
We have 2 microphones for you.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to sort of thinking about bringing data into the tool from various internal tooling versus some external as well, and thinking about the use case and how it would be valuable for an attorney or a legal professional, in the sense of is this judge going to be ruling in a favorable way? Have they done so in the past? How is that going to impact how I sort of manage and handle that case? What is the strategy around it? And I think that those are kind of exciting things to explore, to be able to give the right information to that attorney to better guide that attorney into having a more favorable outcome. And then also just sort of streamlining and becoming that source of truth, and really understanding and analyzing where we're making an impact and where the resources need to be at various times or things like that. It's sort of a guidance for leadership to say, we need to develop this end more because we're seeing this issue in this particular country. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to, is bringing in the data in and then being able to expand it in a way that makes sense to everyone.
I think you mentioned a little bit about intake and agentic intake. And that's one thing we're really exploring right now, because for us, we have a front door. It's really it's not just a legal front door. It's like an all-employee front door that we have. It's called Basecamp. And what we do today is we intake matters through there for several practices. In order to get to that matter, you have to go to a knowledge article, and the issue that we see is that people don't want to read those knowledge articles. They log the matter directly with legal. They just click 0 on when they call in, right? And so what we've been trying to figure out is, how do we promote that self-service more and more as people do the intake. And so one way that we're looking at it is, if you have to engage through an agent, that agent can force you through, did you try and take this step, or did you try and do X, Y, and Z? Or maybe I can take this action for you. That's another thing. There are several actions that are taken by our shared services team today that we're trying to see, can these be automated through an agent so that the person doesn't even have to come to legal in the first place. And then after that, I mentioned that legal is a bit of a black box. Now everybody knows. Even I think you showed on your request type on your intake, it shows all of the different practices. And even that, in a lot of instances, I know I need to reach out to maybe commercial legal, but then inside of that, I have no idea what needs to happen. And so what we're hoping, or like where some opportunity is that when you go to an agent, that agent can figure out based on what you're telling it, the context, which team I should be routing this to, what types of matter it should be, all of that without you actually needing to know or like needing to go to a knowledge article and figure that out.
Fantastic. We're going to open it up for questions in a minute. I just want to say thank you both for sharing some of your experiences. And I know you'll both be sticking around for a little bit for some other conversations. You know, I heard some really good nuggets today, and just a little bit of recap here. One is around, I love the idea of thinking of things like a black box, whether that be legal or other operations, and really how do we peel that back and make the process more streamlined and a little bit more visible for our business users. So I love that. The use cases in many hats, also great idea around being able to meet people where they are and really designing your solutions for your teams that of course are doing many jobs and wearing many hats and have many use cases, top down and bottoms up. And then as we look to the future, really being able to think about predictive analytics. I love the example around how could we position ourselves for better strategy and looking at what might be coming and preparing for that versus when the case is directly in front of us. And of course, making it simple, being able to enable business and users for self-service without having to read long knowledge articles, because I don't read them either. So I think those are all great tips as you're thinking about your own legal operations transformation. So with that, thank you both again, and we will open it up for questions from anyone in the audience. Nothing. Oh, yes, please.
What is the core data set that you standardized first in order to be able to automate more effectively? Like, you know, define type, matter type. Like, what was the core data set? And did you use any external sources to build that design?
I'm going to repeat because I know we're, okay. So what was the core data set that you used to automate, and did you use any external sources? Did I get that right? Okay.
So we started with, at least in our matter management, the AI features that went into that. We used the matter that came in along with the teams that did get those features used emailing through the tool very heavily with outside counsel. And so with that, we were able to, we look at matter data directly within the org. We also look at all of the e-billing data that we capture with Litify. And so, yeah, I would say like those were sort of the main two that we started with, and now we've been looking at how to do some of the larger volume cases and other use cases.
Yeah, I mean, we're building multiple different types of things in different areas of the law that we have. One in particular with regard to intake, which I referred to earlier, is we've taken something that we receive by email, which is just a document, and be able to sort of extract that data into a structured format to surface up into the tool, so it reduces the amount of sort of user entry with regard to what the matter needs, how to enter that matter, and that obviously reduces risk of misinformation as well. And so it was thinking about, you know, bringing that in, but also bringing it in a structured way that makes sense, and that it would open a matter, and then they could work on that matter and reduce that time of manual labor.
Good. Thank you. Anyone else? I see lots of smiling faces. It's fantastic. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap up. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.